Hey everybody, it's Jason for the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And this range report is on a gun that I have been wanting to shoot for a long time. This is the Beretta PX4 Storm. This particular example, I believe, is called the Special Duty, and it is chambered in 45 auto. To be honest with you, I wasn't even familiar with the 45 auto versions of this gun. This is one of the great offerings from Beretta, and I've been really interested in firing this because it has a rotating barrel, which I'll talk more about when I get this back on the table in the garage. So it doesn't use the standard tilting barrel locking system. Very excited to shoot this. I've only shot one other rotating barrel gun in my life, and that was the Colt M2000. So this is going to be the first couple of magazines in this thing. And before I shoot, I am going to say that these magazines say that they can be loaded to 9 or 10 rounds, even though they're quite big. But I had a hard time just getting 8 in there. So these springs are pretty stout. So I don't know if that's going to affect the reliability at all, but let's find out. So that has quite a unique recoil impulse. It's a little bit heavier than what I was expecting for 45, and I think a lot of that has to do with the nature of the locking system. I kind of feel though that the recoil is coming directly back into my hand versus flipping the gun. I don't really feel like I did that well on these first shots, so let me pull the target in and we'll see how I did. So not very good, to be honest with you. So I was definitely pulling a little bit to the left and low. So let me load up a few more magazines and let's see if I can tighten up this group now that I know what to expect. All right, so I've loaded up a few more magazines. This time I'm trying to go for the head, and I'm gonna see if I can tighten up this group now that I know what my tendency is with this gun and what to expect from the recoil. All right, so I definitely find myself pulling the gun to the left, and I'm not shooting this as well as I was hoping to. I'm getting a decent sized group, but at 7 yards, I'm definitely not happy with that. I feel like the reason that I'm pulling the gun to the left is kind of the shape of the grip. It's kind of slipping in my hand a little bit. I think I would like the grip to be a little bit more textured. So without having to reset my hand after every shot, I kind of find that it's slipping a little bit, and I might be pulling it because I'm anticipating it a little bit too much. So let me load up a couple more magazines and let's see if I can get the Texas Gun Princess to take a shot at this one. All right, so I shot 3 mags through this thing, and I tried a couple of different techniques. The first time, I tried to slow my shooting down, and I fully released the trigger after every shot. When my wife shot this, she noticed that that gave her a little bit better groupings, and I noticed the same thing. So when I ride the reset of this gun, I do find myself shooting to the left and low for some reason. The last magazine, I tried to go a little bit rapid fire. I find that the gun's a little bit uncontrollable, but that's just the nature of 45 ACP and the recoil impulse of this gun. I'm going to have to get this back to the garage and on the table and formulate my thoughts, so let's do that now.
All right, so we got this Beretta PX4 Storm home. I've disassembled it, I've cleaned it, and had a few days to think about my experience with it. By the way, sorry about my voice. I'm getting over a terrible sinus infection when I'm filming this, and I'm just having a little bit of a raspiness and difficulty speaking. So I'm sorry if my voice is a little bit more annoying than usual today. But anyway, let's talk about this Beretta. This is a really, really fascinating gun to me because it has the rotating barrel, which I'll talk about in a second. But let's get to how it's shot and my thoughts and experiences first. I did not shoot this pistol as well as I was hoping. I really want to shoot this pistol well because I really like it so much because it's so fascinating to me. But I think I have figured out why I was not as accurate. And it has to do with the grip texture and the shape of the grip. So there's a lot of texture here on the back and on the front. So we have some stippling here, some stippling in the front. But on the sides of the grip frame, there's absolutely nothing. So let me show you that right here. It is a smooth surface, well, generally smooth. And so I find myself having to adjust my hand after each shot. This gun had some moderate recoil to it. Of course, this particular example is in 45. Maybe the 9mm wouldn't be the same. But it has this smooth side to it, and I felt like in my hand, because of the recoil, it would kind of shift a little bit after every shot. And therefore, I was having to readjust my hand. And I think that played a lot into the accuracy of the gun for me. So I might have been more accurate if I was wearing shooting gloves or something that would allow me to have a better grip or a better purchase on the firearm. So I'm unsure if this is a design that is across all models or if they have changed it in recent years. I don't know. I can only speak about this particular example. But it shot really well, and I really, really like this gun. So this is something that maybe if I went to a 9mm, maybe if I had a different grip module, if they make them, or maybe they've come out with like different back straps and side plates, I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But if that kind of thing could be changed, I think I would shoot this a lot better. But as it sits, I was not as accurate, but I'm going to blame myself and not the firearm. Because I said, it's just the gun didn't conform to my hand. And that's it, really. Reliability, the gun was awesome. I had very healthy ejections consistently, regardless of what ammunition I was using. I believe on that range trip, I was using Winchester White Box, and I was using there was some other brand I was using. It was like an off brand of something, just what I was able to get for the range report, and it was fine as well. There wasn't any really issues with any of the ammunition. There was a couple of loading issues that I did notice, and that has to do with the magazines. And I think I mentioned this as well in the shooting video. So there are 3 magazines that come with this particular gun. So you have the extended magazines, which I believe, according to the witness hole, say it holds 10. And you have a more flush-fitting magazine here that says that it holds 9. And as I mentioned, I was only able to, without the assistance of a magazine loader, load in 8. Now, I am pretty good at loading magazines and pushing the rounds down with a lot of pressure. I could not get in more than 8. Now, the magazines claim 10 and 9, so I'm going to believe them. But even when 8 was in there, the rounds were in there very, very tight. So when I loaded the pistol, one of the issues I had was if the slide is closed and you're having to close it in on that top round, even at only 8 rounds, I had to insert it and then I had to slap it really, really hard to get it to go in. So I found that I needed to really have the slide open, insert it this way, of course there wouldn't be any issues, and then drop the slide. When I did that one time, it didn't completely pull the round out of the magazine because it was in the magazine so tight. The magazine, I think, might be the weak point to this design because this is a pretty darn big magazine. I want to say this thing is pretty close to the size of a FNX magazine, which I believe holds 12. And a Glock 21 magazine, those things hold 13, I think. Or maybe the FNX holds 15. But anyway, these things are pretty big and it only holds 10. So I believe the magazine geometry could be adjusted a little bit to get a few more rounds in there. And they definitely got to look at the springs that they use in these magazines. I don't know if they need to be this stout. So I don't know if that could cause reliability issues with the spring being so strong. As I said, I had it one time where it did not fully pick up the round out of the magazine and the slide did not fully go into battery because of that. But this was the only issue I had was these magazines. And I was just disappointed I couldn't load up to what the witness holes claim I could load up to. But both, regardless if it was the extended or the flush fit, 8 rounds I think was about it. But the performance of the gun was outstanding. Now, on this particular model, I can tell that they're trying to hold over some of the typical Beretta stylings, such as the safety being mounted on the slide. So here we have the safety on the slide, just like a Beretta 92. Everyone's kind of used to that. Some people absolutely hate it. I understand why they do it on the 92 series, but I think when you're redesigning an entire gun, which is what this is, there's not a lot of part compatibility or design compatibility between this and the 92. There are a few things like the magazine, sorry, not the magazine, the hammer release lever, I think it's called, and a couple of other parts that I noticed are designed just like the 92. I don't know if they're interchangeable though. But besides that, it's a whole new gun. And I am very surprised Beretta did not move this safety down to the frame. That's just one of those things. If you're designing a gun from scratch, maybe try something different, but they seem to be really stuck on this slide mounted safety. And of course, the issue with this, of course, is when you're racking the slides, some people claim you can engage the safety. Now, these are upward facing just a little bit, and I found that when I'm racking the slide, I don't have that issue, but it does kind of dig into my hands. So somebody that would be sensitive to having to rack a slide, this might get in the way and hurt a little bit. But for me, it's not a big deal, but I'm just kind of surprised they didn't go with the frame mounted safety on that. For some reason too, on this design, the barrel sticks out further than the slide quite a bit. Sometimes you'll get them sticking out just a little bit, but first I thought, well, maybe this is designed for like a threaded barrel or something, but you can't run a silencer on this gun because of the rotating barrel. So before I get into the design of the rotating barrel and talk about that and why this gun fascinates me so much, let me just give you the overall performance. This thing is actually a really, really nice gun. In fact, it has inspired me to do a little bit more research and potentially get a 9mm version of this. This is the only gun that Beretta makes that I don't own. So I have the, of course, the 92s, I have the APX, I got some of their smaller guns. I don't have any of the PX4 Storm models. So I definitely need to get one in the collection. And I think I'll go with a 9mm, which I think will mitigate some of that recoil issue and the accuracy issue for me. So overall, I love this gun and I'm really fascinated by it. It's a really cool design. So if you're a PX4 Storm lover, I am right there with you. I just got to learn to shoot this thing better. But now let's talk about the design of this thing. So to kind of show you how this differs than your standard locking mechanism, where usually when the slide comes back, the barrel will tip down into the frame and allow the slide to continue and it unlocks that way. This actually has a rotating barrel. So I'm gonna try to get this in focus. And when I pull the slide back, you're gonna notice that this surface right here will rotate up into the slide. And once it gets to a certain spot, the slide will continue back and the barrel will remain in place. So I'll pull this back kind of slowly. As you can see right there, it's starting to rotate and then it clears. So it does have a different recoil impulse because of that. It's not bad, or it's just different. And you kind of have to get used to that. Now this design actually goes back, there's another view of that. So this design, I believe, goes back to John Browning and I believe he patented a gun that had a rotating barrel back in 1897, but the first production gun that had a rotating barrel design was the Steyr M1912. And it was just not that popular of a locking system because it's a little bit more complicated and difficult to manufacture. But it's extremely reliable, which is why some other companies have used this. Like I know that Colt tried it in the M2000, which was an unsuccessful design. And there have been a few other companies that have attempted it. But I think this is probably the most popular gun that has utilized this particular design. When you disassemble it, the mechanism is also interesting in that the camming surface is actually a block that is underneath the barrel, and it attaches to the recoil spring. So once the magazine is out, of course, safety check the gun. You kind of take it apart like a Glock. You pull the slide back just a little bit, drop those takedown levers, and the whole slide comes off the front. And the block that I'm talking about is this part right here. So if I take out the recoil spring assembly, you can see that this block comes off, and that has all the camming surfaces on it. It's very unique and different than the Colt M2000 that I had at one point. But as I said, it's just different, and that's why I like it so much. Reassembly is just the same. It's a little bit tricky for me. You got to get everything perfectly lined up, and then it slides right back on the gun just like a Glock does. There it goes. And then it's back together. So the takedown of this gun is pretty intuitive and just like any other semi-automatic pistol that you would probably be familiar with. So the design of the gun is fascinating to me. The performance of the gun was excellent. This particular version of the gun might not be the one for me because my hands, it doesn't fit my hands like I would hope it would. But it is an awesome gun, and I'm definitely going to be in the market for a Beretta PX4 Storm full size in 9mm. And if I can get this awesome flat dark earth frame, I'm going to go with that as well. So on my star system, how do I rate this particular gun? Well, its performance, its design complexity and interest, I'm going to give this thing a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so I know there's some PX4 Storm lovers out there, and you're probably upset with me that I didn't give it a higher rank. But I have to be honest with the performance of the example that I have. I just did not shoot this thing very accurately. I would like that group to have been tighter, and I kind of feel like in the 45 platform, this has a little bit too much recoil for me, but that's because of the rotating barrel design. I think you do feel a little bit more impact of the slide coming back in the rotating barrel design versus the tipping barrel design or the dropping block barrel design of the Beretta 92s. So that seems to mitigate the recoil differently. This, I think you have more feel of the slide coming back, that inertia coming back into your hand. Not that it's bad, as I said, it's just different. But 4 out of 5 stars. If I would have shot this thing better, probably 4.5. It didn't exceed my expectations. It did exactly what I was expecting it to do. It is a quality product from Beretta that is a tried and true design. And that's it. So 4 stars out of 5, Beretta PX4 Storm, really cool gun. If you're looking for something different, this is the way to go. You can't go wrong with Beretta, and you can't go wrong with a rotating barrel designed pistol. Just something different, something cool. Absolutely awesome. And I'll give you a couple shots here of the side of the gun. Very attractive gun as well. I don't think it has had much widespread adoption in the military and the police community. I do know a few agencies have adopted it and a few militaries have adopted it, but it's not as popular, let's say, as the 1911 was or the Glock design. But it is still really, really cool and something that I have to add to my collection. So there you go, my range report, Beretta PX4 Storm, 4 out of 5 stars. What a cool, cool gun. So do you guys own one of these pistols, or do you own a different pistol that has a rotating barrel, and what do you guys think? So let me know in the comments section below, and as always, thanks for watching.